As a counselor, I don't really deal directly with addictions. It's really not my area of expertise, and I learned years ago to leave those to the who are trained specifically to deal with those issues. What I do see in the counseling, though, is the fallout of an addiction with a spouse and a family. It's devastating, and honestly, it's very difficult to understand. Spouses have asked me, why is my spouse's addiction more important to them than I am? It's a question that I can't answer, but that is their reality. I never talked to someone with an addiction who set out to become addicted. It was never their intent, but that's what happened. Paul had never been to a casino in his life until one opened in his town. It was huge, with bright lights and all the fanfare that goes along with it. Paul decided he would check it out. What would it hurt to go one time? I get that. I'm not saying that walking in the doors of a casino is wrong at all, but it's important to know that there's some risk. I first talked to Paul about 3 years after that first time. He was now divorced and his daughters didn't speak to him. He lost his good job and then a number of not so good jobs. He lost their dream house and their cars, and when his wife finally filed for divorce, the process was simple. There was nothing left to divvy up. The day I saw Paul, he had just finished 2 weeks in a new job. He was going to get his life back. He got his first paycheck the night before our appointment. He was going to use part of it to pay for counseling when he left for work that evening. He should have turned right to go home to his apartment, but instead he turned left to the casino, and he lost every penny of that paycheck. The following day, Paul told me the story. One thing really stood out. He said, I think I would have been fine that first time going to the casino, but I won. I won big, and I felt something trigger inside of me. I could not stay away after that, even as I was losing everything that was important to me. Well, I referred Paul to a counselor that specializes in addiction gaming, and he joined a Gamblers Anonymous group. We continue to meet to help him work on his relationship with his daughters, but it's going to be a long, hard road for Paul. Allison knew her dad had a drinking problem as she was growing up, but he always seemed to control it. She knew he had his drinking from their mom at times, and through other times he would drink openly. He had a very good job, he was very successful, they had a nice home, and he was a really good dad and provider. She knew her parents' marriage wasn't great, but she knew her mom adored her dad. Allison never really understood the term functional alcoholic until many years later when she realized she was one. Allison and Dan met in college and dated 3 years before they married. They both drank, so everyone else did in college too. Allison says her drinking might be a little problem and might be a little different than Dan's. She seemed to look forward to it more than he did, and she often drank more than Dan. Dan never said anything about it, and neither did she. After marriage, they both worked and really only drank on the weekend, and it was usually a drink or a glass or two of wine with dinner. Allison got off work an hour before Dan and started meeting a girlfriend for a glass of wine after work. She still got home about the same time Dan did. He knew she did it at a time or two each week, but had no idea it evolved into an everyday thing. Allison was still this perfect wife, was great at her job, and maintained her friendships. She could handle the drinking. Anytime she began to think she had a problem, she could find a reason why she did not. When she was pregnant with her first child, she stopped drinking for over 9 months. She did the same with their second and third children. She was now a stay-at-home mom. She missed her friends at work and began asking them to drop by after work for a glass of wine, and that went on for months. One evening as Dan was tucking their oldest Anna into bed, Anna said something that got his attention. She said, Daddy, sometimes Mommy acts funny in the afternoon after her friends leave. Dan decided not to say anything to Allison since he was leaving the next day on a 3-day business trip. He would sit down with her when he returned. The business trip went well, and Dan was able to come home a day early. He decided to surprise the family. Dan walked in the house to find the kids in a panic, and Allison passed out drunk on the bed. Dan called me, and I connected them with someone to assess Allison and recommended treatment. Allison was broken and compliant and left for a 3-month stint at a rehab center. I connected Dan with a counselor to help him understand Allison and to get him into a support group. Dan and I then met to talk about his marriage. He felt like it was just one big lie, and he said he had no idea who Allison was. Even if she got better, he wasn't sure he could ever trust her again as a wife and mother. The number of people addicted to prescription drugs is astounding. Many start innocently. They have surgery, they take pain pills for a few days, and then the few days turn into weeks and months. They seem to like the feeling they get from the pain pills or the ability the pain pills give them to not feel. Either can become addictive. Prescription drugs, alcohol, opioids, and cocaine are just a few of the substances that can be addictive. Addictions kill people in relationship. If there is or ever has been addiction in either spouse's family, you both need to know because the risk is higher with an addiction history. The addictions were different with Paul, Allison, and Sam. The similarity was that they all hid it. Look back at each story. What if Paul had talked to someone that understood gambling addiction after that first night in the casino? What if Allison had shared her feeling about drinking with Dan early in the relationship? And what if Sam admitted the pills were a problem before ever going back to work? The main thing I want you to get from these stories is that you don't have to be a what if. If there is an addiction issue with you, your spouse, or both of you, begin reaching out for help now. There is always a way out.